Hi, everyone. Um, so I feel a little ill-equipped for this lesson, meaning I don't feel like I'm the right person or have enough education or knowledge to bring you this lesson, but I'm doing it anyway because I think it's important. So this informal talk is meant as an overview to help those who speak English as a second language understand what is happening in America with the protests, police brutality, and Black Lives Matter. This lesson is mainly, to focus on vocabulary words, talking points, and hashtags that you may be hearing in the news, on the streets, in the protests, on social media, that might be a little bit difficult to understand if English is not your first language, or if you aren't really familiar with the history of race relations in America. I know I cannot properly explain everything that needs to be explained. I'm not a scholar in this subject. I will leave more resources for other videos to watch, how to donate, how to get involved, how to learn more in the comments below. So the purpose of this video is just to help you understand some of the vocabulary and the context around that vocabulary. So if that is not what you need at this point in time, feel free to turn off this video. If it is what you need, if you're a little confused when you watch the news, if you want a little more clarification on some of these terms, please continue to watch. I'm also going to be doing bite-size, that means very small, lessons on my Instagram with some of these vocabulary words you'll be hearing. My Instagram is goals.english. So yeah, on Instagram, I will have mini lessons, and in this video, I'm just going to do my best to explain things that need explaining if it's a little unclear to you. So first, let's start off with the acronym BLM, meaning Black Lives Matter. When something matters, that means it's important. So the literal meaning is the lives of Black people are important. Seems obvious, right? Of course. So why does it need to be said? I'm going to read from the About Me section on the Black Lives Matter website, and then I'm going to go over it again and explain a little bit what some of those vocabulary words in the informational About Me section means. So I'll read it through once, and then I'll talk about some of the vocabulary words that you may need help understanding. So from the website, Black Lives Matter Foundation, Inc. is a global organization in the US, UK, and Canada, whose mission is to eradicate white supremacy and build local power to intervene in violence inflicted on Black communities by the state and vigilantes, by combating and countering acts of violence, creating space for Black imagination and innovation, centering Black joy. We are winning immediate improvements in our lives. Okay, so that's probably a lot to understand if English isn't your first language. So let's first look at white supremacy. So the word supremacy, related to the word supreme, means being superior or thinking you're superior, right? Higher in status, authority, or power. Okay, so the majority of the people in power, whether that's in government, judges, police chiefs, CEOs of major businesses, the majority of those people are white and male, right? So white supremacy is a problem that we have in the US. Some people deny this, right? Deny, say it's not true. but it is. And this is a much longer discussion than I can go into here. So, just to let you know what white supremacy means. So, let's go back to the text from the Black Lives Matter website. Global organization. Black Lives Matter Foundation is a global organization, right? Global meaning worldwide, whose mission, right, their goal is to eradicate white supremacy, eradicate, end it, make it gone, make it disappear, eradicate white supremacy, and build local power, right? So city by city, to intervene, so come in the way and stop violence inflicted on Black communities. Very simple. And yet people are fighting about it. They want to stop the violence against Black people and in Black communities by the state and vigilantes. So when people say the state, they mean the government, those people in the government. So violence by the state, meaning police officers, government officials, etc., and vigilantes. Vigilantes are people that take the law into their own hands. Vigilantes are people that are deciding they are making the rules. So, for example, someone that thinks there's a criminal in their neighborhood and goes and shoots that person, that would be considered a vigilante. Okay. So, by combating and counteracting acts of violence, creating space for Black imagination and innovation. This term is used a lot, creating space, right? When a certain group is in power, they don't want to let any other groups come in. There is no space. So we need to create space for marginalized communities. And I'm going to go into the word marginalized a little bit later. Okay? So creating space for Black imagination, right? Innovation, invention, creating new things, creating new ideas, expressing new ideas, and centering Black joy. We are winning immediate improvements in our lives. Okay? That's it. Black Lives Matter, their goal is to improve the lives of Black people. So let's go into the opposition of that. Well, first, let's talk about the protests now. The main focus of these protests has been police brutality, right? So brutality. Brutality means extreme violence. Something is brutal when it is extremely violent in a horrible way. Police brutality is violence caused by the police. So police brutality is a problem in the US. It's a big problem. And I, again, cannot go into all of it, but you've heard these names, right, of victims of police brutality. George Floyd, Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, Michael Brown, Eric Gardner, Philando Castile, Breonna Taylor, on and on and on. I could have a whole video just saying all of these names of victims of police brutality. Victims that were hurt by members of the police force, not hurt, killed. This is why we have the hashtag say his name, hashtag say her name, hashtag say their names. They're a cry for people to remember the victims of police brutality and to honor them as individuals, right, as people who have value. Their lives were valuable and they were taken away by police brutality. So who is opposing this? Right? This is the big question. Who would fight against equality? Who would fight against stopping the murder of innocent people in the Black community? Some of them are outright racists. We have the KKK, which is the Ku Klux Klan. They are a known racist group that fight for white supremacy. We have neo-Nazis, that means new Nazis. We have Proud Boys, which are another kind of new Nazi thing. I don't even know. There are so many groups of racist people that I cannot keep up. But let's talk about the people that are more subtle, right? They're more sneaky about their racism. They're more sneaky. They're not going to say, only white people matter. So what do they say? They say, all lives matter. Okay. That sounds innocent enough. Yeah, of course. Of course, all lives matter. But this was not a phrase that existed before Black Lives Matter. This phrase came in response to Black Lives Matter. What do I mean? People didn't want activists, right? People fighting for what's right to stand up for Black lives. So they made this different hashtag, all lives matter. What this means is people want to silence Black Lives Matter. They want Black people and their allies meaning friends, people that support them, to shut up, basically. Be quiet. Stop talking about it. They want to deny what is happening. They want to deny that we have a problem with racism in America. So they say all lives matter because it sounds nice. It sounds innocent. But don't be fooled. All lives matter. Excuse me. All lives won't matter until Black lives matter. That is the response now. That is how we are fighting back against this hashtag. All lives will not matter until Black lives matter. A common response to this is you don't go to a rally, right, an event for breast cancer and say, all cancers matter. All diseases matter. Of course. But we are focusing on a very big problem that is currently happening now. If you don't get that, I suggest you do some inner searching and figure that out. Another response to Black Lives Matter has been Blue Lives Matter, right? This has a similar origin. It's meant to fight against Black Lives Matter while sounding innocent, while sounding like they're not fighting Black Lives Matter, but they are. So blue refers to police officers who in America wear blue uniforms. Blue Lives Matter. Again, of course, their lives matter, but that is not the problem. The thing is, cops have a dangerous job, and I understand that, but when they get injured or killed, there is justice. When a Black person gets injured or killed by a cop, more often than not, meaning most of the time, there is no justice. I can share more information on this, but those names I listed before and many others, the person that killed those people got acquitted. Acquitted means their criminal charges were thrown out. They did not go to jail. They did not pay for their crime. Which brings us to a chant you will hear at many of the protests, which is, no justice, no peace. Oh, no justice, no peace. What does this mean? For this explanation, I will quote civil rights activist Reverend Al Sharpton. This is from an article he wrote for The Guardian in 2014. Okay, so these are the words of Reverend Al Sharpton. No justice, no peace means that until we see fairness and accountability, we will not remain silent. Those who never want to see progress or change would love it if we remained quiet. That's exactly why we don't. As a preacher and civil rights activist for my entire life, my conscience will not allow me to ignore brutality that afflicts the voiceless. And neither do all the good people on the side of equality. So that's the end of the quote. So let's talk about that. Until we see fairness and accountability, we will not remain silent. Okay? That's what no peace means. It doesn't mean war. It doesn't mean fighting. It means speaking out. It means talking about the inequality, going to protests, whatever it takes to be heard. Okay? Until we see fairness and accountability, we will not remain silent. Okay? Those who never want to see progress or change, right? The people that like things the way they are, the people that want no change, would love if we stayed quiet. That's exactly why we don't, right? So what he's saying is, people in power want to stay in power. People that benefit from that power system want things to stay the same. Those speaking out on the side of justice will not be quiet. No justice, no peace. We will not be quiet until there is justice. Okay, so earlier I talked about the word marginalized. Where did I put my notebook? So here. I'm going to get this piece of paper. Literally, these are the margins of a piece of paper, right? They are the sides of the paper where we put things that are unimportant, that don't need to really be seen. The important stuff goes in the center, and everything else goes to the margins. Okay? So in literal terms, these are margins. If we turn this noun, margin, into a verb, that's marginalized. Right? So marginalize is the act of putting groups of people to the margins, right? Minimizing their voices, marginalizing their concerns. So groups of different ethnic backgrounds, races, sexual orientation, gender presentation, women, any group that is not represented in positions of power, such as the government, are marginalized because their voices are not heard. The government does not represent marginalized people well. The diversity of the US population is not represented in Congress or our judges or our business leaders. That goes back to that white supremacy. Okay, so I'm almost done with this, just a little bit more. I wanted to talk about the word other, because this is a very simple word. It's not white supremacy, it's not marginalized, it's not some big vocabulary word, right? Other. Literally, we learn in English classes, right? This is my toy. This is my other toy. Okay? But in terms of race relation, the meaning of other, or made a verb, othering, is talking about how we make things, I'm this way, you're different, you're other. And other is treated as not important, right? We talked about our marginalized groups. The groups in power treat the marginalized groups as other. So how do we treat other in the US? Not well. We need to stop othering people. What we see is that people can empathize with those that are like them if they haven't done the work to empathize with other people that are different than them. So, for example, if someone's father is a cop and their father is a good person, they might find it very hard to understand that in the system, systematically, cops are hurting people because they think, my father is a cop, he is not bad, cops are not bad. I'm going to stop there because this is just the tip of the iceberg. And this is a phrase we use a lot. So we have an iceberg, right, in the ocean. And here's the water. And I didn't even explain this much. I maybe explained a tiny, 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 tiny tip of the iceberg. I can't explain all of this. It would take a very long time to explain all of this when it comes to racial history in America. Because it's not just slavery, it's not just the civil rights movement. There's all those years in between those two events, while those events were happening, and to now, present day. I'm going to say one more thing before I end this, actually, because I forgot, and I think this is important. You will hear the term colorblind. Colorblind, literally, there is a condition where people are literally colorblind, so they don't know the difference between, say, red and blue if they're looking at a picture. That is literally being colorblind. When it comes to race, people like to say they're colorblind as in they don't see race. Similar to all lives matter, this sounds nice. Oh, you see everyone as the same. That's good, right? But the thing is, that doesn't help anybody. Saying you're colorblind, often the people I see that say that are the ones that are not. But they just want to go pat on the back. You know this phrase? Praise me, I'm a good person, I'm colorblind. No. We have to see races, we have to see how certain races are treated differently than others to be able to fix anything. Being colorblind does not fix anything. Of course, again, of course you should see everyone equally. But you don't need to go around telling everybody that. You don't need to say you are colorblind. It doesn't help. It's not helpful. Being colorblind is not even true. No one is. That's okay. We need to see differences and celebrate them and protect the marginalized communities. I've not been looking. So I'm going to end it there. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I will be kind of like I did with marginalized. I will be going over some vocabulary words on Instagram, mini videos that explain a little bit more about the vocabulary words you will hear on the news, in the protests, on social media, because all of this is confusing enough as an American who speaks English fluently. So I can imagine if English is not your first language, if America is not your native culture, there's a lot that you're missing in this conversation. And I want to help because I think the more people that understand what's happening, the more power we have to change things. So I'm here. Again, I am not an expert on all of this. I do my best to stay educated, to stay informed. And I will leave some resources, some You can donate to Black Lives Matter. You can donate to bailout funds. I could talk a lot about how peaceful protesters are getting hurt, sprayed with mace and tear gas. I have friends personally that are peaceful, loving people who have been brutalized by the police officers in these protests. So they get beat up and then they get taken to jail and they have to pay bail. So there are bailout funds, right? So you can pay that bail so they can get out of jail to help these protesters and help people that are arrested for other reasons. So yeah, you can donate to Black Lives Matter. You can donate to bail funds. You can donate to ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, NAACP. I'm going to leave lots of resources for you, and you donate where you feel pulled if you can. If not, just learning is a good step. So I'm going to leave some resources for that. And please, if you have any questions, leave comments. I will do my best to answer them or send you the way of someone that has better answers than me. If you don't want to comment publicly, feel free to privately message me. Yeah. I hope this has been informative for you. Please take care of yourselves, take care of your friends and family, take care of strangers you see in the street that might need it. Be safe and well, and thank you for listening.